What's going on YouTube? This is Doublehead with Amir Danes and Keenan Costain. And on this episode, we're going back to the Superdome. But on the way there, you might have some questions. Why is there a yellow ribbon around the Superdome? And why am I presented with two logos for the Super Bowl? Well, the answers are going to be in this episode.
All right, Amir, we are back. Well, you asked a question. Maybe we can have answers here.
Definitely.
So, Super Superdome for Super Bowl 15, and lo and behold, uh, let's jump right into it, right?
Okay, I'm ready for this one. I'm looking forward to it.
All right. So, Superdome for Super Bowl 15. So, what took place? So, a little backstory here that the U.S. soldiers, you know, were assigned to the country Iran, doing their usual duties and whatnot. And as soon as they get there, right, they they um they don't get a unexpected welcome from the Iranians or what have you. So and it turns out there's riots going on throughout throughout the streets, and they don't they don't take too kindly to that.
No, they didn't. 'Cause, they were sent there by Jimmy Carter, President Jimmy Carter, who, let's just say, this series of events would play a factor in him on whether or not he would be reelected for the 1980 presidential election.
hmm So with that in mind, November 4th, 1979, 52 U.S. ambassador soldiers were being held captive. And let's just say, with them being captive and with President Jimmy Carter being uh, having the U.S. soldiers being assigned to those that sort of country, um, people even on this list, which you see, on the middle part of your screen. Sorry that some of the faces were chopped off here, but with that, um, there was a couple of people in particular that were a little bit confused and a little bit concerned about where they were going to go.
Yeah, because they were tied up, had their faces covered up, and they said, we didn't do anything wrong. We were just on a mission from the U.S. We had nothing to do with this."
Mhm. So as times went on, the Iranians wanted to kick out the American reporters, but the military and Iranians liked football for some odd reason, and and since people from Iran went to college in the U.S. was able to learn about the sport of NFL football.
Yeah, because that, figure what the heck, it's. I mean, they're getting the games in Iran, and well, the Super Bowl's coming up, and they figure, well, we need something to keep our morale up. Why not listen to that? And that is where will they allow them to listen to the big game? We don't know.
Well, with that being said, Alex Haynes, a reporter, was able to travel to Los Angeles, California, to Iran and to get information and updates to families who haven't seen their loved ones in quite some time. So Alex Haynes, who worked at the KMBC radio station, was like, "Hey, these people need help. They need information, and and plus, you know, they just need the information to get back to their families, right?"
Yeah, I say it's a good idea.
So with that in mind, Alex was able to make a compromise with the people in Iran, which is they were able to listen to the Super Bowl 14 on the radio. So fast forward, probably like a few months later, you know, with the U.S. soldiers still being held captive, they were able to listen to the Super Bowl 14 on the radio, or cassette rather. The Rams and Steelers covered. So since we worked at the radio station, and it was being telecast or broadcast rather.
Yep. And even when it was a bit. There was a long negotiations. They were. When you hold people hostage, you're not going to give them any pleasantries, if any at all. And then, but Alex was able to, you know, make a deal with them. But of course, after the Super Bowl, he had to leave. And as for the Super Bowl, since it's being played in the U.S. and Iran's like a few hours, 5 hours ahead of us, or several hours ahead of us, they had to find a way to actually make it for us in real time. And luckily enough, cassette tape, so we can get some poured on there and then ship it over to Iran so people can actually listen to it.
Mhm. And back in the U.S., Tom Landry, coach of the Dallas Cowboys, decided to send a cassette tape of that Super Bowl as well off to Iran for the people to listen. So thus meant the hostages and the people in Iran were able to listen to that cassette tape of the Pittsburgh Steelers and Rams game, in which the Steelers won 31-19 with Terry Bradshaw and team winning sports organization for championship at the time.
That's correct. So yeah, they were able to listen to that game. Give them some again morale because they're being held captive and being beaten and being mistreated by the Iranian soldiers or prison guards, and it's in that Super Bowl gave them hope, saying that they're they're thinking about this back home in America, and hopefully one day we'll return home and see our family and friends.
Well, the Iranian guards did not take too kindly of that, as there were certain laws and certain not benefits, I would say certain rules and certain laws per se, where if you did something while you were being held captive, you could get yourself killed or killed or even injured.
Oh yeah, 'cause they the relationship between Iran and America was not in good state. Was very toxic at this point, and they were sending a message saying, you don't obey our rules, don't expect any of these guys to come home safely.
Mhm. So with that, Super Bowl 15 with the so a few months went by when Super Bowl 15 was coming into fruition. So on January 20th, the release of the American soldiers, the release of the American soldiers took place as the same day as the presidential inauguration, with Ronald Reagan took, taking, took over the White House.
Yeah, so unfortunately, that those Americans who got held hostage, that was reason why Jimmy Carter didn't win your election, why Ronald Reagan took office or won the election, later took office, and those guys, the people were held hostage, were in Iran for 444 days, so a year, so yeah, almost 2 years, and that's a long time to be held hostage, especially in a foreign country.
Mhm. And to be exact, no, I it took 444 days, for for the soldiers to come back home and to be released. And back to I want to back up to uh, Alex Payne here. Um, they, the compromise, you know, that he made to the Iranian guards and people in Iran, you know, I think he plays a big part in the story of how Alex was able to, make a composition or compromise or a deal with the Iranian guards and people.
Yeah, that was like I said, that wasn't an easy one because they sent the message like we're not gonna let these guys go unless we meet our demands and whatnot. But somehow, some way, Ham was able to make a deal with them, and that wasn't easy. And of course, he had to pay a hefty price because after the Super Bowl, he had to leave the country, or leave Iran, that is.
Right. And it was after the Steelers and Rams game, sure. And they, after, like you said, they had to leave the country as soon as the Super Bowl cassette tape was 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 dead and gone and finished because with the Iranians, they couldn't make a they couldn't really proceed or even watch the game on television.
No, yeah, yeah, they weren't going to allow that. So this is their second option was get the radio broadcast.
And that's when the cassette tape came into play. And shout out to Tom Landry as well and Alex, making this happen. So, with that being said, Super Bowl 14 is fast approaching, and was released next soldiers from Iran to happen on January 20th as presidential inauguration of Ronald Reagan took over the White House. And the yellow ribbon, as you can see on the bottom side of your screen here, the right side of the right side corner, was placed on the Superdome in New Orleans. And the ribbons were
Yeah,
also displayed during including were also displayed including the meeting dining area, tri suite among the crowd.
yeah, and I know a lot of people who showed up to Superdome, including the players and coaches. I know some of them were very confused. Like, what's with this big ribbon on the Superdome? And people who were paying attention to the news over the past year would say, "Oh, it's because the hostages just got released," and we're like, "Oh yeah, that."
Yep. And you know, I mean, my question to you, Amir, is why do you think they use the yellow ribbon to represent the American soldiers?
I do know yellow means like freedom. So, yeah, that became a symbol of hope and for a safe return. And sure enough, when you know, since they were held hostage for 444 days, and there's 52 of them. A lot can happen, and being held hostage, things go awry at any moment. But amazingly, that didn't happen. They returned home safely, and yellow means virgin safe, and or excuse me, they were. And when that happened, they chose the color yellow, and sure enough, they used it for the Superdome, or put the yellow ribbon on the Superdome.
Hmm. And and lo and behold, as far as we know, none of them uh, have passed away or died during the during being held hostage, which is a really really good thing.
Definitely.
And when it comes to player reaction, players, the Raiders and the Eagles coming up, and uh, it was so. Here's a quote from Jim Plunkett, the quarterback of the Raiders. So, and I quote: "It was the coolest thing I've ever seen. The fact that just 4 or 5 days prior to the hostages being released, everybody was coming home."
Yeah, and it was a cool sight. 'Cause, that was a long year and a half for these guys. Being away from the families, and friends, being held hostage, and not knowing is will this be the day that we'll be released, or we may not. This may be our last day on Earth.
But here's another quote from Cliff Grant. Well, when we got into the locker room, we all had the yellow sticker on our helmet. I was very meaningful to going to the game. We were playing we were playing for two things: the return of our people from being in a hostage situation and the Super Bowl as a team. We were very committed about those two events.
And well said by Cliff Brandt, because yeah, when you with the players, they're Super Bowl week. It's a big week for them. 'Cause, this is a chance to prove you're the best team in the world. But then also, there's other things going on in the world, and obviously the cost situation. There was, they were some of them were keeping here close tabs on that. Matt Millen, when he got to the Superdome that day, he was confused by it until one of his teammates told him what was going on and why that was there. But and getting back to the yellow sticker, which you see on the photo right down below, that's by Art Shell. And so yeah, they gave those to the players wearing the back of their helmets in honor of of the yellow ribbon that was post tied around the Superdome that day in New Orleans.
Yeah, and that's a pretty cool way to go about it too. We have one more. We have a couple more quotes here. From Rob Jorowski. So I quote. I remember through the week wearing an eagle green hat with a yellow ribbon. Read the hostages. So that would be the head coach, uh, Rob Jorowski,
Quarterback and the head coach is Dick Vermeil.
or Dick Vermeil, excuse me. Yeah, so quarterback being Rob, and we got one more. So before the game, or actually not a quote here, but a statement. So before the game
Mm-hmm.
took place, a moment of thanks for the 52 U.S. Ambassador soldiers were being held captive, or was being held captive, which means the soldiers were able to make it back alive. And as Amir said, they were able to make it back home safely. With that being said, the Philadelphia Eagles and Oakland Raiders Super Bowl 15 is about to begin. So, few notes here. So the Raiders were 11-5 during that season, and were the first wild card team to make it to the Super Bowl. While the Eagles finished with the season 12-4.
Yep. So yeah, that was the first year, and this is like the third year they with the wild card round because they came in back in 1978, and the Raiders because they win their division. Chargers won the AFC West that year. They qualified as a wild card and ended up making it to the Super Bowl. Whereas the Eagles they won the NFC East and matter of fact beat the Raiders earlier in the season 10-7, and so they had some confidence going the upper hand in terms of that going into the game, but the Raiders, I don't want no, they lost by three. They feel like this is the best they can give us. Then if we face these guys again, we're going to finish the deal.
Well, with the Raiders here, Jim Plunkett at the time was the backup quarterback for the team as Dan Mistrione got injured in the sixth game of the season. So the Eagles were favored going to the game, but luck would behold, as the Raiders were able to win 27-10 in New Orleans. As the soldiers were being held hostage, we're very excited to see football for the very first time with their families on television.
Yeah, definitely. Just a year ago, they were fortunate even just to listen to the Super Bowl, albeit on a radio or cassette tape. And then here you are, here a year later, they're back at home, and I get to see Super Bowl on TV. It's some emotional. That was a very emotional time for them.
Mhm. And I remember watching the NFL Films documentary that you sent me, Amir, for this presentation. That some of the people that were held hostage were able to, crack open a cold one and enjoy the game like it's nothing, right?
I almost said like it's nothing, but just like I said, just what a difference a year makes. It's this is a lot emotional time for these guys. They were held captive, hostage, excuse me, and then a year later they're back at home and getting a chance to enjoy the Super Bowl with their friends and family. And then that the Superdome honored their release and coming back home to the United States.
Yeah. So as the Raiders were able to get the win, 27-10 in a lopsided game, celebration and phone calls took place as Jim Plunkett, quarterback for the Raiders, was able to celebrate their first Super Bowl together, that being the Raiders at the time. During the celebration, the quarterback gets an phone call. Unexpected phone call from a U.S. hostage, that was held captive, and he says, "Hello, May I speak to Jim Plunkett? Oh, really? Hmm. Oh, sir, I just want to congratulate. I just want to congratulate you on the victory. And then Plunkett responds with, "Congratulations to you. Thank you for your sacrifice." He's like, "Oh," like, and they're both celebrating.
Yeah, because Jim Plunkett, he was, that was he at the prior to the 1980 season. His career was on the down low because he got drafted by the Patriots, didn't work out there. Went to the Niners, that didn't work out. In the Raiders, back up to Stabler, and then later Pastorini, and then Pastorini got hurt, took advantage of the opportunity, and look where he is at the end of the season, wins Super Bowl and wins Super Bowl MVP honors.
Yeah, so that's a pretty big deal. And I don't know his stat line per se, but when it comes to the celebration of phone calls, that's something you don't really see that often, or if not at all after you win the Super
I think this one doesn't get as much attention because I know when I think of like the Raiders post Super Bowl the Super Bowl celebration, it's Pete Rozelle handing the Lombardi Trophy to Al Davis, and he's saying it's fine as out in history of Oakland Raiders. The loss and all that is, but I know most NFL films, documentaries when they do one on the Raiders Super Bowl 15 championship is that I don't think they ever included Jim Plunkett's conversation with one of the soldiers after they won the game.
Bowl. So I think you said it perfectly, Amir. So with that, Raiders were able to get the win in the big game. The hostages were able to come home. The U.S. soldiers were able to. So turns out it was a happy ending.
Definitely.
So with that being said, that'll be the end of my story. And coming up next, we got a forgotten logo, Super Bowl 36. Well, it looks like we have another mystery to solve, and you can find out coming up next on Doubleheader.
Yes. Yeah.
You're listening to Doubleheader. Be sure to like and subscribe.
All right, we're back, folks. We got solved one mystery about the Super Bowl in New Orleans. Now we have another one to solve. The history of the original Super Bowl 36 logo. And before we begin, what comes to mind when you think of Super Bowl 36, Keenan?
I'm gonna say it took place probably somewhere in the 80s and 90s because this is only like or or somewhere in the 90s, I would say, if I had to take a guess, because Super Bowl 15 took place in 19. I'm already forgetting 1980, 81, somewhere around there.
Well, actually, the Super Bowl took place in the year 2002, and a familiar face, made his Super Bowl debut.
Was it Tom Brady? Oh,
Yep, there he is.
Dusty. Yep, I got it in the nick of time.
Yep. So when we think of Super Bowl 36, we think of this soundbite.
Johnny Paxton will snap from the far hash mark angle to the left for Adam Vinatieri. 48-yard field goal attempt. Set to go. Snap ball down. Kick up. Kick is on the way. And it is good. It's good. It's good. Adam Vinatieri wins a 48-yard field goal. And the game is over. And the Patriots are Super Bowl champions. The Patriots are Super Bowl champions. The best team in the National Football League.
Yeah, courtesy of Gil Santos, and you barely hear Gino Cappelletti in the background. He's laughing, cheering amidst Gil's call Adam Vinatieri's game-winning field goal. And of course, that was Tom Brady and the Patriots' first Super Bowl as they've gone to win six during his tenure, that dynasty that we all remember. But lost in all of that is, well, this logo right here, the Super Bowl 36 logo. What if I told you that was not the original one that's you see gracing your screens right now?
Well, I mean, over the years, we've seen people make up these conspiracy theories about how the logo is. And for example, you you probably have the latest Super Bowl, that being Super Bowl 59, of having the Chiefs red or the Eagles or the Eagles blue
No, green, but
or green. Excuse me, I meant to say green, not blue. My bad.
you're fine. And what do you know, I guess is going to be calling the Super Bowl this Sunday at the time of this recording. And right here, well, could be on what
What do
looks
you
like his card.
Well, what do you know? Tom Brady, and Kevin Burkhardt will call the game on Fox this Sunday, 6:30 p.m. Eastern Time. I'm looking forward to it.
Yep, and it's going to be on Fox, as the case with this Super Bowl. They didn't match the logo. Well, this was not the original logo they had. What that was supposed to be on. This is not supposed to be the original logo for Super Bowl 36. As in the next slide, you might notice something different.
Well, I can totally pick out the obvious, and that the color scheme is definitely different, and the way the X's are. So, hmm, kind of looks like you would see at a at a restaurant somewhere.
Yeah, you'd be right. And yeah, it does look like something you see at a restaurant or maybe Mardi Gras 'cause it was being held in New Orleans.
Hmm. Okay. So that was my first initial thought, being the restaurant scene, and as we talked about the last few weeks, another New Orleans Super Bowl.
Yep. So of course, New Orleans is known for a lot of their food, like gumbo, the shrimp, and a lot of Cajun food and what have you. And so when they presented this logo for the first time, this is the most marketing was going to be geared towards, a lot of New Orleans themed stuff, like the one you see here, which I own but couldn't find for some odd reason because I'm doing a lot of moving, but that's not here or there. See a chef hats, see two chef hats, a couple restaurant related stuff, and you see here you got the steamboat with the musical notes. They have large jazz history, and then on this one you see some of the Mardi Gras mask, and then another this belt buckle with, of course, the logo. 'Cause, it, that was the one they had in mind, and but also the dates as well, January 27, 2002.
Well, didn't the Super Bowl took place in February still, or like it is today, or was it a little different?
Well, not at the time of this when they made this logo, that was not the case because all the Super Bowls prior to 2000, the 2002 season would take place in the last Sunday in January because the NFL season would kick off on around Labor Day, so like late August, or the last week of August, first week of September, and then therefore the Super Bowl would take place late in the last Sunday in January, and then after that the Pro Bowl would take place afterwards, and that would be basically that would be the case to the 2009 season when the Pro Bowl would take before the Super Bowl. Having said all that, the reason why the Super Bowl date was moved back is what I'm about to show right now. The Wings patience is the one on the left, especially right here. I get my telestrator on here.
So initially released, but the 9/11 attack, of course, entire week at NFL games, we back. That makes okay. So I know. So our Spotify listeners, so I'll try to read this out. best I can. Week 17 was supposed to be the week 2 of the NFL schedule was initially released, but the attacks of 9/11 forced the entire week of NFL games to be postponed to the first weekend of January, and the entire playoff schedule was pushed back a week as a result. Here's the initial two, week 2 lineup courtesy of J.D. Grace 1.
Yeah. Yeah. So 9/11 played a factor in why the Super Bowl logo got changed and why the Super Bowl got moved. So when the schedule got released in April, they had all the week 2 games or they had all the games scheduled for all the respective weeks, time slot, and what have you. But of course, after the day after the Giants Broncos game, which we covered way back, we know what happened that day. And on September 11th, Twin Towers got hit and collapsed, Pentagon got hit, and then plane crashed in Shanksville and impacted everybody, including the NFL, who said, you know, there was a vote saying should we play games week 2 or should we postpone them? And then they said postpone the games because we want to spend time with our friends and family, and our country's just not ready for football or any major events. And sure enough, Mr. Tagliabue took that into account and moved all the games back. Well, having said all that, due to all those games we moved to week 17, that also would impact the playoffs and the Super Bowl. So, having said all that, the logo that originally was designed, well, that was going to be they had to change that because it was New Orleans themed. They also wanted to keep it patriotic, or they wanted to make it the Super Bowl patriotic. So thanks to Dan Simon, he was able to come up with this logo, and he has a quote that I will read right now. It says, "It encompasses all of America," and I don't have to agree with that because it has the U.S. Border in the background with the 48 continental states, and it's red, white, and blue. But also, going to keep my notice of changing in the date.
Well, it makes sense because they have to push everything back uh, a week. What took place on 9/11.
Yep. So everyone, nowadays we're familiar with the Super Bowl being played in the originally the first Sunday, now the second Sunday in February. Well, it started with this game right here. Super Bowl Sunday, you see right there, Sunday, February 3rd, 2002. That's a good
But
design.
well, that's something that I didn't really know about per se. It's interesting to know that. Um, didn't know that 9/11 had a factor in it. But lo and behold, I think Paul Tagliabue and company and team made the right decision.
Oh, definitely. And also, I'm glad they did change the logo. I mean, nothing wrong with the original one, but I'm glad they were wanting to keep the victims of 9/11 attacks in mind. That was a tragic day for our country, and the effects of it lasted for several months afterwards. Because even going into the Super Bowl, they were concerned about security because Super Bowl is a big event. We were looking forward to a big chaining game, cause a large audience, both in the stadium and on television, but also just because it's Super Bowl doesn't mean everybody's going to be going to play by the rules or by the laws or want to keep everybody safe.
Yep, definitely.
Yeah, because I know so security was, they wanted to make sure it was tight and make sure nothing suspicious would get into New Orleans and into the Superdome that day or that week.
Yeah. I mean, it's you know, security is important, especially when it comes to these big games, like you said. So anything can happen no matter where you are.
Yeah, especially in New Orleans, 'cause, you got the French Quarter, Bourbon Street, and a lot of strange things happen on Bourbon Street and the French Quarter.
Yeah, but like we saw not too long ago, there was I forgot what place per se that took place in New Orleans around 2 years, about to be this year.
Yeah, the Sugar Bowl between Georgia and I forget who the other team was, but yeah, they had to postpone that game for a few days, and several people were killed in a terrorist attack, and keep in mind that Super Bowl's going to be played yeah, in the same venue, and that was there were talks about moving that game or how they're going to about security in the weeks leading up to that, and sure enough, it was the same case here with Super Bowl in 2002. Again, 9/11 just occurred. People were still on edge a few months later, and again, like didn't even go further back that 1972 Olympics. We didn't want to see a catastrophe like that ever again, and so that was awesome back the minds of the city of New Orleans and the Super Bowl committee. 'Cause, again, draws in a big audience, but also some people, a lot of people, it brings out the crazies, and they didn't want to have that on their hands.
Yeah, so I mean, I'm glad I brought up the Sugar Bowl. That took place, and um, as of this recording, it's February 5th as we're recording this, and um, don't I don't think they're gonna pull out this late in the game. They figured it out. Their Fox already got the cameras set up already in New Orleans. So if they pull out this late in the game, I'd be very surprised.
Yeah, they're not going to pull out because they luckily they were able to get that situation resolved, and then they were able to play the game a few days later than expected, and that was between the Bulldogs of Georgia and the Firearms of Notre Dame. So yeah, and they were to get that clarified. Everything set for that game as for this one as well. But getting back to the one in 2001, it just I will say it was a good deal that they were able to they changed the logo, keep the memories of the people who died that day in 9/11 alive, and also change their marketing and stuff because you know you, by that point the Super Bowl logo will be worn on the patches of the players, as seen here. Well, as soon as I pull it up, so you see on Tom Brady and Kurt Warner, and then of course at the midfield you see the logo right there, and also even on their shirts and pins, which gotta say I like this one too. It's able to incorporate the updated logo, but also where they were playing the city it was taking place in. Come on, mouse. That mouse wants to not work all of a sudden.
Yep, but all good here. Um, yeah, I mean, if if you're a Patriots fan, if you're a Rams fan, you'll be saying to yourself, "This is it's a neat concept," and I and or if you're an NFL in general, NFL fan in general, same thing.
Yeah, and even during the halftime show, I know the U2 performed, and I know their lead singer he had a American flag stitched into his shirt, and then during the ceremony or the show, excuse me, they had a screen that came from the background and had all the people who unfortunately passed away or died that day on 9/11. So I thought that was a nice tribute. Glad they were included all and not only just keep them in spirit, but also include their names on incorporate their names into the Super Bowl halftime show, which by the way would have had Janet Jackson, but she pulled out and performed 2 years later in Super Bowl 38, which amazing enough, the guy who created the logo for Super Bowl 36, created logo for Super Bowl 38.
Hmm. I mean, I did not know about. And was it Panthers that played in Super Bowl 38, or was it 39? I
Uh,
remember it was.
yep, 38. Yep, that was the Panthers.
Yep, yep, that's what I figured. Yep. So, and lo and behold, you know, the guy that you see on the left, the right side of your screen, first picture, there he is again. Got a second Super Bowl ring.
Yep, but on this night he would get his first, and he won the MVP honors and get traditional going to Disney World, going to Disneyland, which sure enough he would do. Well, and so, Tom, you're going to enjoy a lot of trips to Disney World in the next 2 decades. But getting back on a more serious note, I got to say they did a good job of marketing their Super Bowl, the logo, and all that stuff, and also this is a stretch where the Super Bowl logos are, I got to say, very unique and very well designed.
Agreed, for sure. I like it a lot, sure. Like I said, as an NFL fan, you gotta be loving this. You gotta love what the commissioner, Tagliabue, done. The committee, the office committee, everybody involved. So I like it. And or love it. We say love it because of what took place on 9/11. And if you haven't checked it out already, hard in the upper right hand corner of the screen of the first 9/11 episode we did. It was all the way back in September. So feel free to check that out. And that's kind of like a part two that that to that episode.
Yeah, I would agree. Yeah, it is because I know we brief, I know again that the attacks kind of impact on the Patriots because I know on Joe and Jersey, their offensive tackle, he had his family was part of the New York City Fire Department, and his brother was a part of the team that went to the Twin Towers that helped get people out of there. And he was one of the few fortunate people to survive, and he was that close to being. He was in the towers or just escaped the towers when they collapsed, so he narrowly escaped that catastrophe.
Mm-hmm. So, yeah, very fortunate. Very, very fortunate there for sure.
Yeah. And I know in one of the iconic photos that they show when they do 9/11 is Andrews coming out of the tunnel with the American flags and he's being introduced. And that was the game where, unfortunately, Drew Bledsoe got hurt, but then Tom Brady came in and, the rest of that story. And it's kind of similar with Jim Plunkett, too. Quarterback, the original quarterback gets hurt and another guy who hasn't had much success, or in Tom Brady's case, he's only in his second year. Not many people know about him, and look where they are. They end up leading their team to the Super Bowl and winning MVP honors.
Yeah. So you've already answered my question that I like to ask. So what are the differences of that between the two stories that we talked about today? So you already answered that question.
Yeah, yeah, and that's the thing what I like about when we do these stories. Like, is there similarities and differences? And sometimes I stumble upon the similarities during presentation, like as is the case here. And with this case, both Super Bowls taking place after tragedies going on in the real world, like Iran hostage with Super Bowl 15, 9/11 with Super Bowl 36, and how NFL was able to find a way to incorporate serious moments in our history into a big game and do it respectfully, excuse me. And some way, somehow they found a way to do it. Because look at this logo right here. I mean, that circle. I mean, they have the updated logo, but also incorporate the city where they're playing in with Bourbon Street, the crawfish, the lobsters, and the French Quarter in the background in New Orleans. And then the shirt I have circled, with Bourbon Street, updated logo, and then obviously, of course, having said that logo, had the U.S. continental border and then red, white, and blue.
Yeah. So like I said, cool design. Sure.
Definitely. And then that's for the game itself. We know how it all went down. Patriots came in as like 13.5 point underdogs against the Rams, who were just 2 years removed from winning the Super Bowl. But then Bill Belichick had a great game plan. The Rams loved to pass the ball a lot, and sure enough, worked in their favor. And they jumped up to a 17-3 lead. Ty Law taking the interception back to the house late in the second quarter. In the fourth quarter, the Rams were able to score 14 unanswered points, including the Warner to Ricky Proehl to tie the game. But as you all know, the legend Tom Brady began, led them down the field, and at the buzzer, Adam Vinatieri drilled that 48-yard field goal. Patriots win the Super Bowl, and then this will be the first of many with Robert Kraft. If I can get my television to turn off. There we go. Thank you. Well, when after confetti's falling, send the Lombardi Trophy, Robert Kraft addressed the crowd, and I will say ties in well with the Super Bowl theme and the Super Bowl logo. So take it away, Robert.
The fans of New England have been waiting 42 years for this day. Spirituality, faith, and democracy are the cornerstones of our country. We are all patriots, and tonight, the Patriots are world champions.
Well said, Mr. Kraft.
Yeah, for sure. It was pretty much written in stone, or set in stone rather. You just had the feeling that it all makes sense due to uh, due, due to that day because of the patriotism, I might add.
Yeah, and then getting back to Ricky Proehl scored that tying touchdown. If you ever seen like some of the pregame footage of the introduction, he says on camera to NFL Films that a dynasty is going to be born tonight. And ironically, he was right, but it wouldn't be the Rams; it would be the Patriots. And that, so I pretty much include that in our presentation.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a definite. That's an interesting callback.
Yeah, and one more thing about the pregame introduction. So again, with the Super Bowl, when we're now, as you've seen, the teams being introduced or as a team. So everyone, they'll say, so like for this Sunday, please welcome in the Kansas City Chiefs or the Philadelphia Eagles. Well, the tradition of that started with this Super Bowl, with the Patriots come out as a team. Because before that, all the teams, when they did pregame introductions, they were introduced to the stars and players by position, and of course, and the coach come out last. But then the Patriots, what? This time of unity, we'll come out as a team, and NFL caught wind of that and said this will be a tradition from here on out.
That's something I did not know about. Instead of doing it one at a time, come all together.
Yeah, and I actually like that. It's just it's again neutral site, and just two teams. It's not their home turf, so we want to just introduce them all at once.
Yeah, agreed. Sure. And I know some NFL teams do that in the regular season, but when it comes to the Super Bowl, that makes sense because it's a team thing for all games.
Definitely. So having said all that, that concludes my presentation and end this episode. So before we sign off, the drill, folks. Like, comment, subscribe, follow us on Instagram, Spotify, and Wix. And having said all that, Super Bowl is back in New Orleans. Well, let's go Chiefs or Eagles, depending who you're rooting for. But for everyone, enjoy the Super Bowl. Let's hope for an exciting and entertaining game.
And as I always say, have a good one, folks. Enjoy the Super Bowl.
Will do.